The dense jungles and relentless monsoons of the 1960s and 1970s set the stage for the Vietnam War, a geopolitical battle that left lasting scars on the world's collective memory. Yet behind the well-known images of soldiers in battle lay numerous covert operations, some of which shaped the war's outcome in unexpected ways. Robert McNamara, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, initiated one such controversial program, McNamara's 100,000. This program sought to meet the overwhelming demand for troops by lowering the military's intellectual standards, allowing those previously considered unfit to serve. The decision had profound consequences, influencing the dynamics on the battlefield and affecting the troops stationed in Vietnam. Meanwhile, another covert operation project, Eldest Son, sought to tamper with the enemy's ammunition, causing unexpected explosions in the Viet Cong's weaponry. The intent was to breed suspicion and mistrust within their ranks. The psychological impact of this clandestine mission was far-reaching, leaving a lasting sense of paranoia and fear. These covert efforts, seemingly insignificant on the surface, played a key role in the unfolding drama of the Vietnam War, revealing a complex tapestry of deception and psychological warfare. Project Eldest Son, an operation shrouded in secrecy, worked to undermine the enemy's confidence without them realizing the root cause. Major General John Singlaub, a key figure in U.S. military intelligence, orchestrated this covert mission, aiming to tamper with enemy ammunition by replacing gunpowder with explosive compounds. These sabotaged rounds often exploded upon firing, injuring the shooter and creating chaos in the Viet Cong ranks. The rumors of these faulty bullets spread like wildfire, leading the enemy to question their own equipment and comrades. The psychological effect of these incidents was significant, sowing doubt and fear among the enemy soldiers. The whispers of a ghostly American unit sabotaging ammunition spread, creating a mythos of an unseen terror. Soldiers, both on the battlefield and in their off-duty moments, spoke of the mysterious sabotage. As one observer noted, "Nothing is more terrifying than the unknown," and this operation embodied that fear. The subtle psychological warfare behind Project Eldest Son was a brilliant yet ruthless method of eroding the enemy's morale and unity. In the 1960s, the United States military faced mounting pressure due to the Vietnam War, needing to expand its ranks as the conflict escalated. With the draft filling fewer volunteer slots, Robert McNamara, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, they introduced an initiative that would drastically lower the standards for enlistment. Dubbed McNamara's 100,000, this program aimed to bolster the military's ranks by enlisting men who were previously considered unfit for service due to intellectual, physical, or psychological limitations. McNamara, renowned for his data-driven, believed that this program would provide many of these men with opportunities they otherwise wouldn't have, such as employment, discipline, and skills. The government portrayed the initiative as a chance for upward mobility for men who came from disadvantaged backgrounds. However, it was quickly apparent that the realities of warfare were no place for those who struggled with basic cognitive tasks. The soldiers drafted through this initiative, often dubbed McNamara's morons, faced not only the brutal challenges of war, but the overwhelming pressure of being unprepared for combat. A poignant example is Albert Nelson, a young man from Kentucky who had cognitive impairments and had always been shielded by his family. Under McNamara's program, he found himself thrust into the heart of combat in Vietnam. His letters to his family spoke of struggles beyond the enemy, of simple daily tasks, like tying his boots, following orders, and understanding military protocols. These soldiers, many of whom were overwhelmed by the harsh conditions, were often misunderstood and, tragically, sometimes put into positions of peril that should never have been assigned to them. While McNamara's hope was to offer these soldiers a way out of poverty through service, the program exposed the gaps in military preparedness and the consequences of forcing unqualified men into one of the most intense military conflicts in history. The experiences of these soldiers, often overlooked in the larger narrative of the Vietnam War, underscored the miscalculations of a strategy that aimed for efficiency but instead introduced chaos and tragedy on the battlefield. The jungles of Vietnam were not only a battlefield, but also an obstacle that significantly influenced the tactics of both the U.S. and Viet Cong forces. The dense, overgrown forests provided the Viet Cong with crucial cover, allowing them to strike swiftly and disappear before U.S. troops could retaliate. These jungles also provided a strategic advantage, enabling them to move undetected and create hidden supply lines along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The U.S. military's struggle to control this challenging terrain called for an equally formidable solution. Enter the Tree Crusher, a massive machine designed by the Lechuno Company to clear the dense Vietnamese forests. The Tree Crusher, which was roughly 27 feet tall and had wheels that measured 6 feet wide, could crush entire trees under its massive weight. The idea behind the machine was to strip the Viet Cong of their natural shield and force them out into the open where the U.S. military could more easily target them. However, the machine was more than just a technological marvel. It symbolized the human attempt to control nature and impose order on a landscape that seemed both foreign and untamable. The imposing size of the tree crusher left an indelible mark on the psyche of both the U.S. soldiers and the Viet. For us forces, it was a powerful tool in their attempt to gain the upper hand. But for the Viet Cong, the machine represented an invasive force, a manifestation of their enemy's technological superiority. It was an alien force that relentlessly tore through the jungle, altering the environment in ways that left little room for escape. The presence of the tree crusher was a reminder that war doesn't just destroy lives, it also reshapes landscapes, leaving scars that are both physical and psychological. As General William Westmoreland once stated, war is fear cloaked in courage, and the tree crusher stood as a testament to that sentiment. While it might have symbolized progress and courage for the U.S., it also marked the devastation of nature, a theme that would go on to fuel debates about the environmental toll of war long after the last tree was crushed. These behemoths of the jungle, the machines designed to clear the forest, became symbols of the broader conflict, the imposition of outside forces on a natural world that had long been resistant to control. Even in the face of this mechanical might, the Viet Cong demonstrated remarkable resilience, continuing their operations in underground facilities and adapting to the U.S. tactics with ingenuity and persistence. In the larger context of the Vietnam War, the tree crusher's presence in the battlefield highlighted the importance of terrain and its influence on military strategy. It also pointed to a new, more industrialized approach to warfare, where nature and technology clashed in ways that were both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The Vietnam War was not only a battle fought with guns and bombs, but also a war of the mind. The U.S. military, realizing that psychological operations could be as impactful as physical ones, began utilizing methods to manipulate the emotions and beliefs of their enemies. One of the most unique and chilling of these tactics was Operation Wandering Soul. Launched in Operation Wandering Soul sought to exploit a deeply ingrained belief in Vietnamese culture. The idea that the spirits of the dead, particularly those who died away from home without proper burial rites, were condemned to wander the earth, unable to rest in peace. These wandering souls, according to tradition, could bring misfortune to the living and cause emotional distress. With this belief in mind, the U.S. military created eerie recordings filled with mournful voices, ghostly whispers, and anguished cries. These sounds were broadcasted over loudspeakers into the dense jungles at night, intended to terrify the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese soldiers. The broadcasts featured voices claiming to be the spirits of fallen soldiers, lamenting their deaths and urging their comrades to leave the battlefield. In a particularly unsettling broadcast, a voice proclaimed, "My friends, I have come back to let you know that I am dead. I am dead." These whispers, drenched in grief and terror, echoed through the jungle, especially at night, when the soldiers were vulnerable. The psychological impact of these broadcasts was profound, with many soldiers believing that they were haunted by the restless spirits of their comrades, creating an environment of fear, paranoia, and mistrust within the Viet Cong ranks. While Operation Wandering Soul was seen as a creative form of psychological warfare, it also brought forth questions about the ethics of using cultural beliefs to demoralize an enemy. For many soldiers, the operation blurred the lines between psychological warfare and exploitation of deep-rooted spiritual fears. And for some of the U.S. soldiers who participated in the operation, the eerie sounds became a haunting reminder of the lengths to which they had to go to maintain an upper hand in the war. The operation remained shrouded in secrecy, and over time it became a part of the folklore of the Vietnam War, a chilling story that soldiers would whisper to each other around campfires, strengthening the myth of the wandering souls that haunted the night. Whether these sounds succeeded in driving fear into the enemy's heart or not, they represented a significant shift in the type of warfare fought in Vietnam, where the battlefield extended beyond physical violence and into the psychological domain. While much of the Vietnam War is remembered for its human casualties, technological advancements, and political consequences, there were other lesser-known participants that played crucial roles in the conflict. From war elephants to heroic canines, these creatures made a significant contribution to both the U.S. and the Viet Cong forces, though their sacrifices often went unnoticed. One of the most surprising chapters of the Vietnam War involved the use of elephants. The dense jungles of Vietnam were notoriously difficult to navigate, with thick foliage, steep terrain, and unpredictable weather conditions. While military vehicles and machinery often struggled in these conditions, elephants, with their vast size and strength, were able to carry supplies and equipment through the roughest terrain. The elephants, often managed by local villagers, helped transport artillery shells, food and medical supplies, proving to be invaluable in remote areas where vehicles couldn't go. In the heart of the conflict, these majestic creatures whose role in war dates back centuries found new purpose. The sight of elephants plodding through the jungle, ears flapping and trunks swaying, became an iconic image of the war, a juxtaposition of nature and man-made destruction. However, the role of these behemoths wasn't without its challenges. The harsh environment and ongoing combat posed risks to both the elephants and their handlers. Despite these risks, the bond between the animals and their human counterparts grew stronger, making the elephants not only essential to the war effort, but also symbolic of the resilience that endured amid the chaos. However, It wasn't just the elephants that stood as unsung heroes of the war. The contributions of dogs, particularly military working dogs, are often overshadowed by the larger narratives of human soldiers. Dogs such as Nemo, a German shepherd, played key roles in detecting explosives and sniffing out enemy infiltrators. In 1966, Nemo and his handler Airman Bob were stationed at Tan Son Nhut Air Base. One night, the pair detected enemy infiltrators trying to breach the base. Despite sustaining injuries during the encounter, Nemo's perseverance led to the apprehension of the enemy soldiers. Nemo's bravery earned him a retirement to the United States, where he became a symbol of canine courage in the face of war. Additionally, pigeons, often overlooked in the larger narrative of warfare, were used by both the US and Viet Cong to carry vital messages across enemy lines. The birds' innate homing abilities made them valuable assets, delivering messages that might otherwise have been intercepted or blocked by technology. These birds flew silently through the air, evading detection and delivering crucial information to their handlers. The role of these animals in the war highlighted a unique aspect of warfare: the intricate and often overlooked relationship between humans and animals. From elephants navigating treacherous terrain to dogs risking their lives to protect their handlers, these animals became integral parts of the war effort, proving that even in the darkest times, nature and humanity would come together to meet the challenges of war. In the end, the animals of the Vietnam War, whether they were carrying supply, detecting enemy forces, or simply offering companionship to soldiers in need of comfort, remind us of the multifaceted nature of conflict. War is not only fought with weapons and strategy, but with the unexpected allies that help shape its course. Amid the violence and chaos of the Vietnam War, there was an unexpected source of comfort and solace for the soldiers, the Donut Dollies. These women, volunteers from the American Red Cross, provided an emotional anchor for soldiers stationed in Vietnam. They were not warriors, nor were they involved in the combat zones, but their presence brought a much-needed respite from the trauma of war. These women, often young and idealistic, traveled through Vietnam in their powder blue uniforms, carrying not just food and drinks but a sense of home, comfort, and humanity. In 1965, Patty Reynolds, a recent graduate from Nebraska, found herself on the planes bound for Vietnam. The reality of war, juxtaposed against the vibrant landscape of Vietnam, was stark and shocking. But Patty and the other Donut Dollies weren't there for the political or ideological battles, they were there for the soldiers. The Donut Dollies set up tents near military bases, offering soldiers a temporary escape from the horrors of combat. The tents, decorated with posters of Elvis Presley and Marilyn Monroe, became sanctuaries where soldiers could momentarily forget their stress. They played card games, listened to music, and engaged in simple conversations about life back home. The name Donut Dollies originated during World War II when volunteers handed out donuts to soldiers, providing a momentary connection to a familiar world. By the time they reached Vietnam, however, the Donut Dollies' role evolved far beyond just providing baked goods. They carried music, books, magazines, and even games, turning their jeeps into makeshift mobile entertainment units. Every visit was an event, a brief return to normalcy in a world that was anything but normal. Despite the lighthearted atmosphere they fostered, the Donut Dollies' work was not without challenges. They operated in war zones, often at the risk of their own safety. Some of them found themselves caught in sudden firefights, their camps coming under attack, yet their resolve remained unshaken. They were symbols of resilience, carrying the weight of the soldiers' emotional burdens, while offering the smallest respite. One particularly poignant story is that of Sharon Lindy Lane, who became legendary among the troops for her infectious laughter and ability to recall soldiers' names and faces. This small act of recognition meant the world to soldiers far from home. The emotional toll the Donut Dollies experienced was profound. They formed bonds with the men they cared for, and each time a soldier was lost to the war, they shared in that grief. Letters written by the Donut Dollies reflected this unique bond, where they spoke of the loss of their newfound friends. Their emotional distress mirrored in every word they penned. Yet, through it all, they continued their work, providing comfort to those who needed it most. While the Donut Dollies played a vital role in maintaining morale, there was also another dimension to their work, bringing a sense of joy, laughter, and camaraderie to the soldiers through performances and interactions that bridged the gap between the front lines and the home they had left behind. The Vietnam War, characterized by its brutality, saw many soldiers seeking comfort in the familiar, and the Donut Dollies became symbols of hope and continuity. Music was one of the primary ways the Donut Dollies created an emotional bond with the soldiers. They often played records from popular American musicians, offering a taste of the world soldiers had left behind. The sound of Motown hits such as Stop in the Name of Love by the Supremes, or the smooth melodies of country ballads, helped to recreate the sense of nostalgia for the life the soldiers had abandoned. These performances, though small in scale, were a profound reminder that there was a world beyond the jungles of Vietnam, one that still cared about them, one that was still waiting for their return. The Donut Dollies were also often asked to entertain the troops with lighthearted humor and comedy. One of the most famous stories is that of Anne Margaret, who, rather than staying within the safer confines of military bases, ventured closer to the actual combat zones to perform. Despite the risks, she continued to perform for the soldiers in the most dangerous areas, often caught in sudden downpours, but refusing to stop her show. These acts of defiance and courage, which seemed so trivial in comparison to the war around them, helped to preserve the spirit of many soldiers. Some women, like Joey Heatherton, used their comedic acts to offer a fleeting break from the stress, often joking about the absurdity of the situation and easing the tension in the air. Yet, it wasn't all about jokes and songs. Behind the laughter and music, the Donut Dollies understood the emotional toll of the war. They spoke to the soldiers, listened to their concerns, and offered emotional support in ways that were often more intimate than the typical interactions soldiers had with one another.